Hello, YouTube. Good morning. For those with a pre existing mental illness, like myself and many others, this can be a particularly challenging time. If you have an anxiety disorder, you already experience high levels of anxiety and you can be worked into a panic and a frenzy much easier than others. If you have bipolar or schizophrenia or another potentially psychotic spectrum disorder, the people and media and things that are talking about end times and the apocalypse and the propaganda that is out there about this current situation can be the hair that broke the camel's back, so to speak. It can push you over the edge. So be vigilant of your self-care. Be vigilant of taking your medications. Be vigilant of the level of input you're submersing yourself into when it comes to what's going on around you. Be careful not to take in too much of the catastrophizing, the paranoia, the end of the world type of talk. And be careful what you hear. Be careful how much you hear. Be careful to take care of your stress and your medication. If you notice any symptoms that seem to be coming up, there is a period at which you can catch symptoms as you start to go off track before you lose the capacity to help yourself. And so if you be vigilant, self-vigilant, while you retain insight, if you notice an uptick in your symptoms, that you address this. While we're in shutdown, a lot of mental health facilities are closed. However, pharmacies are open. You just have to get your temperature checked to get to them. So I'm speaking, some people are in charge by other people, and those people are attending to their medications and making sure that they get the help that they need and the coverage they need during this particularly unprecedented time. However, the people that live independently and deal with these type of issues, be aware that pharmacies have to remain open. They are critical infrastructure. So you still have access to your medications. They may just check your temperature, but you won't be cut off from your medications. And so please continue to take them as required. Also, there have been, as far as I'm aware, with most practicing therapists, there is typically teletherapy, which is an app downloaded onto your internet device, phone, or computer. Most of us have a smartphone, even if we don't have a computer, and you can download an app and maintain your regular therapy appointments. It's really critical at a time like this when you're put under pressure, that because stress can trigger episodes, that you keep up with your therapy. And if you do not have access to internet, you wouldn't be able to watch this, but I'm going to put it out there anyway because some people might know some people, that telephone therapy, you can have telephone conversations with your therapist. Psychiatric appointments, at least in my area, you won't be seeing your medical doctor, so they won't be making any adjustments to your medication or anything like that during this time. But you do have access to your therapist. You do have access to your medication. And it's important that you keep up on it. And it's important that you pay critical attention to your state of mind, to what you're submerging yourself into, to how well you are coping with this, to self-care, the normal things we're supposed to do when we have a mental illness. eat right, sleep right, take our meds, keep ourselves less stressed and more structured, and don't isolate away from friends and family. And friends and family, if you have a loved one that has a mental illness, especially with the propensity to have a psychotic experience, keep a close eye on them, because this type of scenario, the upheaval of structure, the difficulty managing, accessing regular therapy that they're used to, the type of topics people are talking about. Some people are talking about this is the end of times. Those kind of things can be very bad, very stressful for your loved one. So keep an eye on them. You do still have access to care if necessary, and they do still have access to medication. They do still have access to their doctors. So, as I myself am an individual with mental illness who have in the past gone psychotic and thought it was the apocalypse, I am totally aware that this type of talk, this type of situation, if I were not in a proper and healthy mind state at this point in time, would have tipped me right over the edge. 3 years ago, when I was very, very ill, if this had happened, then I can't imagine what it would have done to me. I can't imagine. So, among the people that you need to take care of, special care of, that are vulnerable right now, are not just the physically ill. If you have mental illness, you need to take good care of yourself, good mental health hygiene. And if you have a loved one with a mental illness, they are at risk. And so they're vulnerable in a different way. They're vulnerable of having an episode if they're not aware of how they can continue to access their medication and their therapy. And if they get too immersed or afraid or overwhelmed by the loss of structure and the catastrophic things that people are saying, can be frightening to anyone who's prone to panic. But if you're prone to psychosis, it can be, all these things together can be just a bit too much for an individual who's already has an episode. So make sure they get their medication, make sure they get the therapy that they need, make sure everything continues as normal as possible. If you're independent, don't isolate, structure your days, cope well, de-stress, take your meds, see your therapist, and be insightful to yourself. If you're having a problem, don't let it go and assume it will go away. These instances that are, are abnormal, or these thoughts that are abnormal, don't brush it off. Address it while you still have the capacity to do so. I know with social distancing, I myself would certainly not want to be in a hospital right now with a bunch of other people. That'd be the last place I would like to go. Let alone the fact that I like to keep my mind straight and my head on my shoulders where it belongs, not off in the distance. So take care of yourself, take your meds, see your doctors that still completely possible. Um, and keep an eye out for yourself and keep an eye out for your loved ones. Mental illness can be triggered by stress, and disregard and distance yourself from these over the top people who are putting fearful and intense information in front of you. Not everything you see or hear is true. And if you have symptoms, report them before it gets out of hand. Love you guys. Take care of yourselves and each other. I feel like I ripped that off from somewhere. Good morning. Bye, YouTube.